Yeah.
It's
Boy, good
legit.
thing I took a shower. Jeez, I was gonna show up.
Right on.
Let me know when you're ready with the intro music.
I mean, yeah, go for it.
All
Whenever.
right. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Are we live? Is this live right now? It's been so long. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Totally Local Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Topat. I'm here with Ming, as always, and my very, very, very special guest today, DJ Foggy Notion.
How you doing, Andrew?
A.K.A. Neil. I'm doing pretty good.
How's it going, Ming? Thanks for having me.
It's going great.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me down.
You know, it was tough to track you down, but
Yeah.
I did, and I was just persistent. And if doing podcasts has taught me anything, it's persistence is the key.
It's paid off.
Yeah, I think so. We started talking, or I approached you with this after you approached me about a very special event that's coming up. And as many people probably don't know, as my close friends know, and they roll their eyes whenever I say it, I was retired from DJing, and I was sick of it, and I was tired of it, and I haven't really gone out and DJ'd in a while.
I understand.
But when Neil approached me for, he said, you got to do it for the cats, and I was like, you're absolutely right. You texted me and you were like, are you a cat person?
I had to clarify that first.
Yeah. And I don't really consider myself, I think it's an interesting thing to say, are you a cat person? Are you a dog person? Because I don't not like dogs,
Right.
You know? I just happen to own, or I have a cat. I don't want to say own. Well, I guess I own the cat, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Papillon, sitting at home. She might be listening. You know, it's an interesting stigma as a adult male in the society.
Yes.
Because for whatever reason, I've gotten a lot of backlash. They're like, you own a cat. You have a cat? I have a cat. And I was on some dating website, and I got like kind of mocked. I did horribly. Well, I guess I didn't do horribly because I met my wife there. She was the last person I contacted because I was having such a horrible run on this dating site. But one of the people I talked to was just like, you own a cat? And I'm like, yeah, I own a cat. And they're like, that's weird. And I'm like, why is that? Why can't I own a cat, you know?
That's strange. Yeah, there's some kind of stigma. There's a crazy cat lady stereotype, but
Yeah.
there's no dog equivalent.
Yeah.
Because a dog is a male alpha thing, and
Yeah.
a cat is like this more withdrawn butch. I have no problem.
Oh,
being...
do you have a cat?
Yes, I do.
Oh. Do
Yeah.
you have a dog?
No.
Okay.
Never owned a dog.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a lot of responsibility to have a dog.
I see them out there walking.
Yeah.
It's raining. They're picking up
Yeah, you could
what
say
they got to pick up.
Yeah.
And, not interested.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't like them.
Sure.
But anyway, you asked me to do it's it's a cat convention. It's Catsbury Park.
Catsbury Park's cat convention.
And who's in charge of that?
Well, it's Catsbury Park down on Cookman Avenue, and it's Jamie and DJ who this is their project.
Yeah.
And that's where we adopted our cat
Nice.
from. So, yeah, I feel it's been a great addition to the community. The Catsbury Park has been really great. It's connected a lot of people with, you know, a new pet.
Yeah.
And you know it's a major thing. A cat in your house.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're so happy to see you when you come home. It's like a really warm thing. I'm really glad that.
Oh, nice.
Thanks. Technical assistance. Yeah. So I'm glad they connected us with our cat.
Yeah. It's a process too, where it's like, you know, you got to try them out because cats are kind of dicks sometimes. Like I ain't gonna
Sure.
lie, like they're more like they're more like people than dogs. Where dogs seem to just be kind of pretty stoked all the time.
Yeah.
And cats are just like sometimes they're like, hey, you know.
They can be very indifferent.
Yeah, exactly. But I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm not bragging here, but before it was cool to quote unquote rescue a cat, I literally rescued my cat from Hobbs, New Mexico. Shout out to Hobbs, one of the most interesting and barren towns I've ever been in my life. And my cat, shout out again to Papillon. She was just allegedly, according to the town that I was in, Hobbs, like a bag of kittens was like dumped in a dumpster. and Pappy like escaped from the dumpster,
Yep.
and I found her in a bush. So I literally rescued
Yeah.
her. Like I picked her up. She was a kitten, and she was dirty and gross. And as soon as you pick up a cat like that, it's like, well, what am I gonna just put it back in the bush, you know? So, you know, I respect the fact that you've rescued an animal.
Mm-hmm.
I've rescued an animal, and that Catsbury Park is doing their part to like,
Yep.
you know. And it's not all about like, you know, purebred or getting a kitten. Like people gotta think about the cats too. You know.
Our cat is 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of thought everyone was going to get a kitten. Kittens probably go first. This
Yeah.
guy's older, bigger, 4 years old.
Yeah.
But there's something about him. We just totally connected with him.
And you know what you're dealing with too. When you're dealing with a kitten, they're just dicks.
They're
more
climbing on everything.
Yeah,
They're
just
on top of the.
scratching everything. You know, I lucked out. Pappy she doesn't really scratch anything. She doesn't really know how to play though. I think because of the abandonment issues and the PTSD. Like if you put like a ball in front of her, she's like, "What the hell is that?"
What are you doing?
Has no idea.
Yeah.
Doesn't kill animals. Like we'll like kind of pat bugs if they crawl along.
Gentle soul.
Cat talk. I love this. I'm going to start a whole new podcast. Continue on that though, because
Right.
I'm genuinely interested in this whole Catsbury Park thing. Because I saw it and I'm like, what the hell is
A
this?
convention for cat lovers,
Yeah.
and cat people. What is this? Well, the room that we're going to be in is in the big room in Convention Hall, and that's going to be the marketplace. So
Nice.
there will be tables set up, people selling, I'm sure, all kinds of...
There's like famous cats too.
Yes, but they'll be appearing at, I guess, in the theater.
Of course.
And over at the Asbury Hotel. I think it's so big.
Oh, cool! Wow.
This thing is 2 days also.
Holy cow!
But it's in 2 different locations. So.
Allow me to chime in. You've never heard of Little Bub? Tell me you've heard of Little Bub.
Yes.
Okay,
I have.
just checking.
He's huge. He's got books.
Yeah. He's published.
Yeah.
More books than I do.
Yeah, they'll be over, I think, at the hotel. Little Bub is going to be over there.
I wonder if is Little Bub going to be in like a encased. I wonder how you do that because I can't
Yeah.
imagine my cat just chilling, but Little Bub seems pretty chill.
Yeah, maybe they get a little leash on him. I'm not sure.
I walk my cat.
I look forward to do you really?
Yeah, I do. It's an indoor cat. Man, I could talk about my cat all day. Who knew? Maybe this is why I didn't get any dates on that dating site. She's 18 now. She's old.
Wow.
And she's an indoor cat because, like I said, she just doesn't know what the hell's going on. She doesn't attack anything or anything. So she started, meowing and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? You're really old. So let's just go outside. I'm like, you're going to get destroyed if I don't put a leash on you.
Yeah.
So I just kind of walk her around the yard, and she loves it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's brought her kind of a new life back to her. She was a little depressed.
Yeah.
Her coat's a little shinier. She's a little
Yeah.
more healthier. She eats more.
That's great.
So if you got an indoor cat, see if you could take it for a walk, people. Did you meet your cat at Catsbury Park is a coffee house.
Yeah, it's like they call it a cat cafe.
Uh-huh.
It's sort of it started, I believe, in Japan. The whole phenomenon where it was like there are places for people to go hang out with cats for people who can't have them. Maybe they're not allowed to have it in their apartment or for whatever reason. So it kind of kicked off there, and
Japan.
yeah, and it was a hit. So it's kind of been making its way around the world.
So you were just having some Earl Grey at the cat house, and
It goes deeper than that. I was waiting for them to open. Like we had recently, sadly, just lost our cat pretty suddenly, and
Sorry
that
to hear
was
that.
in like June. And they've been working on Catsbury Park for like a year. It took a very long time
Yeah,
to
they
get
had
done.
some like permit issues
Well,
or something.
I guess it's you're serving food, but then you also have pets in there, so
Yeah.
they had to go through a lot of
Plexiglass. and
Yes,
stuff?
yeah, there was a lot of zoning and planning going on.
Uh-huh.
So before they were even open, I was kind of like peeking my head in the window, like, what's going on in here?
Yeah.
And eventually they're just like, oh, come on in.
Uh-huh.
And so this is like they were opening on Saturday. And this is maybe on like Tuesday. They had gotten the cats in there and they were getting acclimated. And I worked my way right in there.
Nice.
And
Got a VIP ticket.
We
in
had
there?
we had met him by Wednesday, and we were like, all right, this is our guy right here.
What's your cat's name?
His name was Peter.
Uh-huh.
When when they found him, and he was left in an apartment. Someone had moved out,
Oh.
just left him there.
Just left him in the apartment?
Yeah,
Like, moved out and they...
the movers found him. Just
Oh, my God.
isn't that heartbreaking?
That is.
So
Happy you adopted this cat.
yeah, and he's the greatest.
What did you rename? Did you rename?
Well, it took a little while, but he became Jupiter.
Nice.
He's orange and white like the planet Jupiter. He's
Nice.
big
Uh-huh.
like the planet Jupiter.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's got the word Peter is sort of in there, so
Yeah.
it just seemed to.
Oh wow, it all fits together.
Yeah.
That's
Maggie came up with that.
Oh, cool! Shout out to Maggie.
Yeah.
I went to her dance medicine class,
yeah,
whatever.
However session class. She's got one going right now today. Actually.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
What time is that?
There's a morning one at I think 11, and then an evening one at around 6:30.
Is it at Trident
and
Arts?
at Trident Arts in Long Branch.
Shout out to Trident Arts too.
Yeah, dance medicine.
So,
Did you have a good time? You had a fun time.
It was so. She's great. She's just got an energy about her that's kind of infectious, contagious, and like lightens you up.
Yeah.
And then you're just in there. It's something that like my wife, shout out to Lauren, she's really interested. She has a yoga background, yoga teacher, but she's kind of been moving away from that title because whatever that holds for people, the idea of a yoga teacher. So she wanted to go to that. We went to it on Valentine's Day, actually.
Nice.
And it holds space for people, and it's just free movement. So you just kind of, it's the same idea behind going out and dancing. Listening to dance music.
Yeah, knowing that I want to go like get loose and move and
uninhibited and move around and like. It's just, I don't know, it's just freeing, and afterwards you just kind of have that. Like that nice feeling,
Yeah.
So I think that's great that there's alternative stuff going on. Not that there's anything, yoga is great, but it's good to have these alternative things too that kind of, introduce different elements into things, I think.
And dancing in a bar is fine, but it's also nice to have it free from that where it can happen somewhere else.
Yeah, and I feel like that people, when I first got into DJing, it came from me realizing this, just kind of admitting to myself that A, I like to dance, and B, I like dance music. I like that feeling, and it took me going to, oh man, there was this place outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was like this rave spot, like it's the desert, so you could go out, whatever. My friend took me there. Shout out to Justin. He took me to this place called Three-Sided Hole. And it was like behind this giant rock, like this huge rock, and you drive up on a dirt road in the middle of the desert, and you can't see anything, and then you make this turn, and this giant rock is flat, so there's all these lights on it and loud sounds, and I'm in the middle, of nowhere with all these crazy people, and that's when I realized, I'm like, I could just dance like an idiot here. I don't have to be drunk or on any drugs. I could just stand here and dance like an idiot, and nobody gives a crap.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I it harkened me back to that when I was, doing the whole dance medicine thing, and it's such a great feeling.
That's good.
And, I think that, as far as when I first met you, as I remember it, I was at, I think it was Anchor's Bend, and one of my favorite songs of all time, Babe Ruth the Mexican, came on.
Yes.
And I was introduced to that song through a book I've mentioned on here before, Last Night a DJ Saved My Life.
Classic.
Because that song, it just comes back through. When it first came out with Northern Soul, and then it came back through with hip hop.
Yeah.
And it's such a random band and such a random song, and you were playing it, and I had to go up and give you props because I was like, this song is great.
That's great. Yeah, I remember that night.
Yeah. Wow. Really?
Yeah, cool. I do. Yeah.
So that's that was when I was first introduced to DJ Foggy Notion. It turns out, like a lot of things in this community, in this area, it's like the same people. You're separated by maybe one or two people.
Yeah.
And we knew similar. We knew Ralph for
was
one.
Our common.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just remember thinking, wow, that's great. You're playing vinyl and you're playing cool tracks, and much respect. I always give respect to all the the hardworking DJs out in this area, especially Asbury Park. Takes all different kinds.
Sure.
You have people like like Mike Merrill, who I've had on here, who, you know, he gets the party going. He knows kind of what to play, you know, in the environment.
Yeah.
You have people like Adam Worth, who's just like a monster. He does the video DJing.
Yeah.
His setup is crazy. Like, I'll go see him and I'll just look at his setup and that's what I'm looking at. People are dancing, going nuts. I'm like, wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
It's
technically what's going on there is
like
mind-boggling.
He's DJing videos. He has, I think it's through Serato, I'm pretty sure. And he's using turntables, but he's using the special Serato vinyl, and then he's mixing the video with the music. So that's a whole other level.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And of course, you know, you're playing you're playing vinyl, which in and of itself has, to me, so many rewards, and it's in my opinion, trying at times, because, and you have it down to a science. It's like a transformer. You have your rig, and you roll it in.
Yeah.
And the cool thing to me about, you know, playing vinyl is that in this environment of this like instant gratification, people want to hear what they want.
Yeah.
They think that a DJ is like a jukebox,
Right.
and they got it totally backwards.
Yeah.
People come, you know, I think you get a lot of respect from seeing the turntables.
Yeah.
And people don't mess with you as much.
Yeah, they kind of stop in their tracks and they're just like, they're staring at them kind of like, wait a second, what am I looking at here? Yeah,
And-
I had a kid, I was at the DJ the Brick Wall the other night in the evening, and a kid came in. He was 25 or so, and he came up and was asking for a song, and I'm like, oh, sorry, man. And he's like, I could see it on his face, just wasn't registering. Like, he's like, you're not going to play it? I'm like, I don't have it. This box that you're looking at is all the records that I have. So I'm going to play everything that's in here pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And what did he just walk away, or?
He's like, and then he came back a minute later, and you know, I was playing a pretty early Sugar Hill Records hip hop song, and he asked for another one, and I was like,
Wow,
I was like,
okay.
well, I don't have that one. He's like, oh man, yeah, he was really devastated.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I people don't, you know, when we were just talking about the shout out to Adam over at Yes Graphic. He was DJing some house music at Watermark, and you know, some woman came up to him and was like, "Are you going to play anything that I know?" And he was like, "Probably not." And just stood there, and then she walked away.
What?
She stayed, but
Yeah, would you ever go ask that question to somebody?
I mean, no, I find it to be kind of
It's pretty rude,
it's
right?
rude. It's when you think about the history, and I'll start going off on a tangent, pontificating about the glory days of like, you know, what I've only read about, because, you know, I started DJing maybe in 2004, and it was like this kind of second wave of popularity when it came to like DJs was just kind of starting, in my opinion, and like it was being more absorbed into, you know, culture on a more of a pop level. But like back in the day, the DJs were the tastemakers. You would go to listen to a DJ because that DJ was playing, and you knew he was going to play good stuff even if you didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of been flipped
What
on
do you
its
think?
head.
Why has that disappeared? That's the thing that gets me. It's like, why don't? I mean, maybe it's only a small percentage of people who come up and, you know, ask for the current top 40 hit or whatever, or the obvious thing, but that like willingness to just let it unfold and hear something new, like to discover something new. Why has that gone away?
I think that as like a culture, we're used to this like immediate gratification, this instant gratification, this ADD culture of just not having the attention span to not hear something you don't know.
Right.
And just the idea that it's been accepted in bars or in clubs that like you're allowed to do that because you're a patron and you're coming in,
Right.
and you're spending money. I think the people that are running places, you know, obviously not all of them, but like they've kind of made it okay, and it's really hard to. It's my personal belief that in order to cultivate an atmosphere, you have to like let things kind of grow and,
Right.
and be adopted and
Yeah.
be accepted.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that it's just been made okay. Like people have just let that happen to the point where, you know, people come in and they just expect to hear the same friggin' songs over and over
Yeah.
again, you know?
Right.
So they don't look at it like you're a person that has good taste that's going to play music.
Right.
They look at it like, oh, there's a human Spotify up there, and I'm just going to pick what song I want.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more to it than the music. It's knowing the environment. It's knowing the atmosphere.
Yeah,
you know,
you're getting a read on the patrons, the people there. You're
Yeah.
trying to, I go in there. I want everybody to have a good time.
Yeah.
I also would like it to be a slightly unique experience where
Yeah.
you're not like, oh, I feel like I'm at this is the same music I hear when I'm shopping at Target. This is the same music. I'm hoping that it's going to be something a little different than that. So,
Yeah. I get a little jaded. Obviously I got jaded because I haven't played. It's been over a year since
Yeah.
I played a gig because I was devastated last time I
Right.
played and somebody asked for. They're like, "Do you have any Eric Church?" I've told the story already, but like,
I don't even know who that is.
I said the same thing, and he was like, "It's country music," and I'm like, "Why would no disrespect? Because I like all
Sure,
different kinds of music.
sure.
Everything has a place.
yeah.
I'm not gonna bust out a bluegrass tune in the middle, at
Right.
8 p.m. in the middle of Bond Street.
We're not that freeform now.
Yeah, maybe it was late night and I was at some warehouse party. I would just play random stuff.
Right.
But I just got so frustrated that somebody would ask for that because I'm just
Yeah.
like, what makes you think that
Yeah.
that's something that would be a good idea to
I
play
know.
right now?
That's why it's great when the setup is so that the DJ cannot be approached. I think
yeah.
that when you can get yourself in a spot like that where
Mhm.
you're kind of cornered off or
Yeah.
up, oh man.
That's how it used
ideal.
to be.
That's how it
There'd be
used to
like a
be.
booth, you
Yeah,
know?
you're kind of hidden. You were up
Yeah.
above. You could really survey everything. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Glory days.
Yeah, so I think James Murphy and the guys from Soulwax were doing that in Europe, where they had this big dome, and all the sound was centered in this dome, and then you didn't even know where the DJ was. He was just off, disappeared
Right.
in the background,
Yeah.
and then you just had to focus on the music.
Yeah, I
you know?
like that.
Yeah. So basically, we're not. I'd love to bring that back. I'd love it if Asbury Park was the place where that could happen.
I know.
But it's really tough. There's a bottom line to bars. They got to make money. It's not like you're playing in a warehouse where it doesn't matter. I keep thinking about we played a show. I think it was with Miss TK and the Revenge.
Oh, that was a blast. The Castland Halloween party.
Yeah, and you crushed it at the end of the night. It was so
It was
so
such
good.
a fun night.
Yeah.
If that place was $1,000 cheaper a month,
Yeah.
it would have been worth it for everybody just to pitch in to keep it going.
I wish there was a place like that where you could just, and honestly, these days, I like drinking. It's fun to do, but what usurps that to me is the idea of having a place like that to go.
Yeah, it was cool. You check out. They had an art show element to it, and
Yeah.
you look at some artwork. It was definitely more culture involved. Yeah, there was drinks there and stuff, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the center of it. Which,
Yeah. And that's you get into liability concerns
Right.
and all this other stuff. I mean, you could plan it, you could kind of get around that stuff, but it's really about finding somebody that's open-minded enough to do that.
Yeah.
It's something that to be said for that freedom that I don't think we really have access to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And that kind of dictates too the idea of what you were saying before about people coming up to you and requesting stuff. If it was that kind of a free form environment, I don't think people would feel as comfortable coming up and asking, and you really wouldn't have to. I try not to be rude to people. I've had a couple of drinks when I was DJing and gotten fed up with people and busted their bananas, but
Yeah.
I really try not to do that because
Yeah.
it's I don't want to. I understand people just don't get it,
Yeah.
And if you don't know who the DJ is.
And I gotta confess that I remember, being 22 years old, 23 years old, and going to the first bars in New York, and and seeing a DJ in a bar and being like, oh, this is cool. I like what he's playing, and then I'll go talk to him while he's playing, oh, this is good. Do you have any of this?
Uh-huh.
Just because I want to talk about music.
Yeah.
And now I see that as all right, that was probably annoying. I was probably an annoying little guy.
Yeah, I've done that before. I used to go. This wasn't too long ago, but I would go. It was when instead of having cameras, you had these flip video devices that were just like mini video cameras. And I'd go to New York and I'd go to these raves or go to Warehouse Park, wherever there was, and I'd want to video the event. Because, you know, there was part of it that I found interesting where, you know, this was maybe like 8 years ago where you could upload things and then I could see how many views I got on YouTube based on who the DJ was and uploading it immediately just to see the reaction I would get. And I remember going somewhere, who was it? I forget what DJ it was, but I was like up there and I was like videoing it, like him DJing. And I'd always try to get like a minute or 2 minutes of non-shaky stuff just to have a cool shot. And there was this giant European woman that would she'd come up to me with her big arm and just be like, swat it slowly down and be like, just dance. And I'd be like, okay, I will, but just give me a sec. I didn't realize it at the time.
Right.
Like, you know, and now I see it.
The point she's trying to make,
Yeah. You know, now you see it at concerts where people are just like, you know, with their this is a public service announcement. Listen, people, your video isn't good. It's just taking up room on your phone, and you're never ever gonna watch it, and
so
the sound is
annoying.
gonna be horrible.
Yeah.
So don't do it. Just like the giant Euro lady said, just dance. You know.
But there's definitely a different impulse for like being excited about music and like, oh, I like what you're playing. Do you know this? Do you know that? Versus like, hey, I don't care what you're playing. Play me this.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. There's respect to it, like,
Yeah.
and there's things that you learn, you know, from either doing it or from being in that environment. Like, for example, you know, I'll come up to you and say hi and talk to you while you're DJing, but I always try to look at where the needle is on the record, because if it's at the ass end of the record, I don't want to bother you while you're in the middle of doing
that's
something.
Very conscious
You know,
of you. Thanks.
yeah, no problem. You know, and you're always very courteous and polite. I remember, oh man, you were DJing. It was one of the Indian summers. I don't know if it was the first or the second one, but I was faced. I was like gone. And I came up to you. You were like walking around. And I was like, hey, I just want to say, man, that I really dig what you do, man. You're such a great. And you were just like very polite. But after a while, I was so messed up, I realized, wow, I'm an idiot. You were just so polite. And I was like, oh, sorry. And you just walked away. I was like, wow. That's a great guy. It's a great guy right there to put up with that.
I've been there.
So, you know, kind of things that I like to the whole point of this show to me, well, A, is I like to talk and I like to ask people questions.
Yeah.
But it's also totally local. So it's about like the local flavor, characters, entrepreneurs, artists, people like that. Are you from like the Monmouth, Ocean County area?
Yeah, I grew up in Middletown.
Oh, shout out to Middletown. Yeah,
yeah.
right on.
Lions, go Lions.
Oh yeah, I went to Mater Dei, so
Okay, my
yeah.
brother went there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh man, go Seraphs, I guess.
St. Mary's Fair, that was a big deal for
yeah.
us.
I used to pick the 50-50. My cousins, shout out to the Zaccardis. My cousin's grandfather used to run that, and when I was a kid, he would like, all right, come up here, pick the number. And then he would always make sure. Shout out to Joe Zaccardi, he was a great guy. He would always make sure somebody won, and he'd bump him, and be like, that kid picked your ticket. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you got to tip him.
Yeah.
So I'd always get a little Skrilla from picking the right number.
That's great. Little kickback.
Oh yeah, awesome. It was a good time, you know. So that's great. So you grew up in this area, and it's you know, growing up in this. I don't know what it is about the area because I moved away and I came back. And
where were you born?
I'm from Highlands.
Okay.
Shout out to Highlands. Not Atlantic Highlands. Don't get it twisted. There's a big difference. You know.
I'm still trying to work out which one is which.
Highlands is the dirtier one, full of. Highlands have clam diggers. That's what they're called in Highlands. If anyone didn't know. And you know, there's the lowlands of the Highlands where I grew up, very salty, very briny. And Atlantic Highlands is more of the upper echelon. I feel like they're more fancy over there, a little cleaned up.
That's where like the Salt Creek and the casino is, right?
Yeah, it's where the casino Salt Creek Grill is in Rumson.
Okay.
Over there, it's Harborside. They have First Ave.
Yeah.
They have that movie theater over there is pretty cool. I haven't been there in forever.
Yeah.
Man, I remember going on a date to see what was it? It was a Pauly Shore movie. Oh man, which one was it? It was either Biodome or one of the classics.
Oh wow.
But you know,
that's a really frozen in time movie theater over there, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think things like that really need to. Man, I feel like such a Grandpa Andy over here, like just reminiscing or thinking about the idea of, you need those things in towns, I think, to make them the town that you kind of want to be in or visit. I'm glad that Asbury Park has a theater.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that Atlantic Highlands still has that theater because it's right in that town.
Yeah.
And that's pretty. Atlantic Highlands is cool for in respect to Atlantic Highlands. Obviously, being from Highlands, you're looked down upon. I've mentioned this before on here.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like Highlands and Keansburg are kind of like the two places where people are like, oh,
Keansburg had a tough rap.
Yeah, you're from there,
I never heard about Highlands, though. I didn't
Really?
realize that. No.
I mean, maybe that's part of the problem. We're not just getting the word out. we don't get the respect either because when people mention Highlands, they my mother-in-law did this where she kept saying Atlantic Highlands, and I'd have to be like, all due respect.
Man.
But I'm from Highlands. There's a difference there,
They didn't think ahead with how that was going to be a problem.
No.
Yeah, they should have gone with a different name.
Totally, mixed it up. And I think that's part of where the maybe the disparity or the little angst comes from is
Right.
I feel like Atlantic Highlands kind of stole the, like we were Highlands, and I feel like they kind of stole it a little bit. I could be totally wrong. I'm no historian.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful little town. I feel my shout out to Pops. Pops is still there, and it was interesting growing up there because you don't. I kind of talking about what I mentioned before as far as like I moved away, but I came back, and I think the reason I came back is because there's something obviously familiar from around here and interesting and cozy and kind of like thinking about Highlands. You have public beaches. You have parks, you have hills, there's historical context.
Yeah.
There's all this, there's like this microcosm, all this stuff going on in this area, whether it's, Middletown, Highlands, Asbury Park, a lot of different, and shout out to Ocean County, which, I was very Monmouth County centric, but I've opened up to the idea of Ocean and Monmouth County being kind of, this is the area,
Right.
But there's a lot of different people, and there's, for whatever reason, I think it's just you're drawn. If you're here, you're drawn to kind of somewhat stay here.
Yeah.
Some people get out, but I got out, and then I was like, I was in Albuquerque. I met a lot of great people. That's where I started DJing. But after a while, I was like, there's no water around here. It's not salty.
Yeah.
People are slower, they don't get my sarcasm or obnoxious loudness.
Yeah.
They really didn't get it.
Yeah.
Until I brought somebody back. I think I brought a girlfriend back here to visit, and I brought her to the Mad Hatter at Seabright. Shout outs. And she was just like, "Oh, you're all like this. You're just all loud." I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much." But you did you go to, where did you went to North?
Yep, I went to North.
Shout outs to North. I have Jenny Hayden. Okay,
yep.
Cool. I know a bunch of people that went to North. I met a lot of interesting people because I used to since I was from the lowlands of the highlands, I had to take the M24 bus to school because Mater Dei was like, we're not sending a bus into that disgusting town. So I had to take the public transit to get to school. So I met a lot of North kids taking the bus.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, that's how I used to get to Red Bank too.
Me too. Yeah.
And they'd give you free tickets. Like you got tickets for whatever reason to ride the bus if whatever Highlands.
Yeah.
So I'd save up my tickets, and then I would I'd need one to get to Middletown, but then I would save some of them up, and then you needed two to get from Highlands to Red Bank. And thinking about that, it was such a peaceful drive. It was like it took an hour.
It took a long time.
It took a long time. You snaked all the way around.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. Reminiscent. So anyway, so you grew up in Middletown.
Grew up in Middletown, and then went to School of Visual Arts in New York.
Oh, nice.
So I was there. I was in New York from like 93 to about 2000.
Nice, good times.
Yeah,
huh?
it was
interesting.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Not as built up or as polished as it is
you
today.
could afford an apartment. I lived in Lower East Side. I lived in Chelsea. I lived on streets now that you probably couldn't touch for under $2,000. But
Wow.
we had 2-bedroom apartments for we'd have 3 people in there. each paying $300.
So good. Yeah, that's what I was like. I live with my friends in Albuquerque, and we were each paying $350 a month, utilities included.
Yeah.
Like just so cheap. And
Yeah.
stuff around here, even in this area, has gotten crazy.
Yeah, it's out of control.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great, and there was at that point, there was so many clubs. And I was, at that point, way more into live music. I would just go see bands every night. Wow. I did a radio show at SVA, which broadcast from the building it was in to one other building to, like, their cafeteria. You could get it for, like, a couple blocks around where it was. It had a very small radius. But it was a radio show.
Yeah.
And you could tape, they had a live music library. You could go in and check stuff out and try new things. And I'd tape every show. I have like shoe boxes full of these tapes. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! You got to like transfer that stuff. Yeah. I'd love to hear that.
And then you could also there would be like a sign up sheet on the door, and it said like shows that were coming up in the next few weeks, and they have a guest list for everything because this is a college radio station. Yeah. So it'd be like. Yeah, I'll go see Sonic Youth at the Academy. Yeah, I'll go see, whoever. Oasis. I heard they're pretty good. This is before their first record comes out. I'll go see them. Got to see Radiohead.
So cool.
Yeah, I just go see every show.
Is that where Foggy Notion was born? Was that where the DJing bug kind of gripped you, or what?
I guess that was making mixtapes for friends, and I was definitely. I mean, I can remember being a little kid, at home, first grade, sitting listening to records, and it's Friday night, and everyone else is in the TV room watching Dukes of Hazzard or whatever is on, and I'm in the other room, looking at the liner notes of a Queen record, listening to that over and over again. I was just always kind of drawn into that.
Yeah, because there's a whole thing too. I love records. There's a tactile kind of response to it. You're picking it up. You're smelling them. You're looking at the artwork.
Yeah.
You're looking at who the producers are on the album.
Right.
I kind of remember a similar situation. My dad had his it was in the attic. He took his stereo and he put all of his records in his stereo up in our attic. And the attic was funny because there were no stairs. It was just a hole in the ceiling. So he would either have a ladder set up or he would personally be able to jump and pull himself up. So it was his man cave in the sky.
Yeah.
So I'd ask him if he could set up the ladder, and I would just go up there and I'd go through his my favorite record was King Crimson, and I would just listen to all this weird music.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
just
another world. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. It's and I think kind of thinking about what you were saying before about what the difference is. I think that. When you're listening to the radio now, as opposed to say when you were on the radio, you were playing stuff that was new, and you were trying to find all this new, cool, eclectic, different stuff. Whereas now, I get lazy. I have Spotify on my phone, and shout out to Mike Merrill who convinced me to get Spotify. After years of not having it. But Spotify still doesn't get me as a person.
Right.
They don't pick the right songs.
The algorithm is not right.
Yeah, I just don't fit into the matrix. But when and I'll listen to the radio in my car sometimes, and I like some pop music. I like new hip hop. I like old stuff. I like it all. But the interesting thing now, and I think this is probably why people feel comfortable going up to you asking you for dumb shit, is that on the radio, they're playing the same song. I was listening to Hot 97 the other day. They had a Drake song, so I flip over to 105.1. They have the same song. So then I'm I'm driving around. Then I flip back to Hot 97. They're playing a different song. They're playing a Rihanna song. And I flip over to 105. They're playing the same Rihanna. They were playing the same songs on different channels. And I'm just what is the world we're living in?
Yeah.
They did all this, shout outs and respects to Biggie whenever his birthday was. But it's just you should be respecting and shouting him out every single day, playing classic stuff that's great. It all comes down to money, I guess, when it comes to popular music or radio stations. It's all about the bottom line.
Yeah.
Which is kind of,
I guess they take the simplest way of looking at it. all right, this is the most downloaded song or most played song. This is what kids like. They do a little bit of research.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just play it over and over again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no like passion for like, oh, we love music. We're gonna play all kinds of music. We're gonna expose people to music.
Yeah.
That's not even part of the equation.
That's not even it anymore, and I think that's why people, feel comfortable coming up to you, being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you're not playing any of the dumb songs I like. Play this song because I'm used to just hearing it all the time."
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think too, part of that too is people love, especially, especially, older drunk white women love like getting, just singing very loudly to the songs that they know.
Mhm.
And if you're not allowing them to do that, they're going to come
Yeah,
up
I get it,
swishing
yeah.
their martini glass around. Like,
Yeah.
can you just play this song? So, whatever. It is what it is. I
Yeah.
really, I don't want to give up on the dream of there being a place to play around here
Mm-mm.
where you can just kind of do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And there's been points where I've compromised. There's been points where I've played a lot of different music. The interesting thing, too, to me, is that when you're playing certain music, it really does affect the crowd.
Yeah.
Maybe in my earlier days, I remember playing at Watermark, and it was like, oh, man, it was like a hot mess weekend, like 4th of July or something.
Mm.
And I put on some, like, Moomba tone or reggae tone, some song, and it was, like, dirty and grimy. And I look inside, because I was playing outside, and there was just this rubbing orgy mass like going on, and then it broke out into a fight. Like this guy was like started swinging and
Wow.
security, and I'm like, wow, the music, people do what they do, but the music I'm playing, because after that I put on reggae or house music or something, and it kind of dissipated. The one guy left, but like it was interesting to kind of realize the idea of that, like, I'm going to play music, and it's going to affect the mood in here.
Yeah.
So if you play aggressive hip-hop, people are going to get aggressive.
Yeah.
If you play fruity house music, which I love,
Yeah.
people are going to chill out.
Yeah.
The people that are going to dance are going to want to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of sets a precedent where people feel either more comfortable or maybe more uncomfortable to come up and ask for
Right.
dumb
Yeah.
music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were in New York. You
Yeah.
were doing the whole disc jockey thing and
Yeah.
seeing all this incredible.
While I was doing that, I was playing in bands too, and I still play. I've been
Yeah.
playing music since I was in high school. I played drums.
The Van Pelt.
Yep. At that point, yeah, when I was living in New York, the Van Pelt was going.
You're my first guest to have a mention on a Wikipedia page.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, there you go, Van Pelt.
okay.
So continue. What?
And yeah, so a lot of my downtime, or when I wasn't going to class
Uh-huh.
or working, I also had jobs while I was living in New York, delivering food and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd play shows on weekends. We'd get in a van and we'd travel to a school in upstate, up in New York, or go to Vermont, and we'd play shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I was much more kind of focused on playing music
Mm-hmm.
at that point. And then maybe somewhere later in the 90s, like started to go to like the Tunnel and Limelight and places like that, and see that and be like, oh, whoa, this is.
What were some of your like DJs that you remember like seeing back then?
Hmm.
Oh man, that must have been so cool.
I had a friend who was really into what's his name? Is it Carl Craig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, we got to see him. We went and saw like, this is a little bit later, but like, Chemical Brothers
Mhm.
and stuff like that. Underworld. Remember seeing them do a
So
DJ
cool.
set? Yeah.
I was such a nervous nerd up until, I mean, I'm kind of still a nervous nerd, but like, I would feel so nervous to go even, up into the city that I missed out on all this great, stuff.
I had people taking me there. Yeah, I didn't really have enough knowledge about it to go into that world myself, but people pulled me into it, and they
That's
knew
cool.
that I liked music, so they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you're gonna like this. You should come." And I'm not the freest like dancer out on
Uh-huh.
the floor, but I would get there eventually.
Yeah.
But to me, a lot of like the music that I was hearing that like some of these DJs were playing was like, what would catch my ear was like, oh wait, this sounds is that Curtis Mayfield? That sounds like something I know this,
Uh-huh.
or I know that voice or something.
Yeah.
You know, they were making something new out of these old records.
Yeah.
And like I think that's kind of what pulled me into to all that stuff.
I think too that history too is, you know, a DJ, people that are producing or even playing music, they have a profound respect for the history of the music that, you know, people don't recognize when you're playing out at a bar. They don't maybe realize that like the things you're playing are of interest and maybe more interesting than even what their understanding of
Yeah,
it,
everyone's
you know?
getting it at a different level.
Yeah. So I mean, that's crazy. That's awesome. So you're up in the city and you're just like you don't, you're sick of it, or
Let's see. I was moving around quite a bit at the end. It was getting a little harder to
find rent.
To find cheap rent.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, the way you talked about being pulled back to kind of where you were from, you know, I was like coming down on a weekend here and there to hang out with friends, and we, you know, go to the beach and like starting to really kind of miss it down here. And actually, yeah, I was still living in New York when me and Maggie met and started dating, and then it wasn't too long before I was like, I'm moving back home.
Was Maggie from?
And Maggie was living in Deal at the time, and she was working at the Brighton Bar.
Oh wow, cool.
So we met. Then it was just a matter of time. I was moving back
cool.
down here.
Yeah, and
then I got a place in Ocean Grove, and there was a two little art galleries that had just popped up in Asbury on Cookman. Actually, one is in the space where Catsbury Park is. There was Asbury Art, and that was run by this guy Brad Hoffer.
Shout out to Brad.
Yep, and he's got some artwork up on the boardwalk in the mural project.
Yeah.
And then next door was the B Gallery, and that was Michelle Schaefer. It was an incredible place. And I got a little studio there, and I was doing artwork there and painting, and they would have shows in that space. And
do you still show any of your work
anymore? Yeah, actually, got something coming up at. Do you know John Vidge? He's got the art tank space. It's called. On Bangs.
On Bangs, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a show. It's going to open up in the next few weeks. We don't know exactly of the opening date, but it's going to be all like local people who do public artwork, whether it's murals or I do a lot of sign painting and things like that.
Get into that
so
too.
It's going to be people who do things like that, and it's going to have like a map around town of things that you've done publicly, and then some of your own work inside the space.
Cool, yeah. So I wanted to get into that too. You do is that what you studied when you were in school?
Yeah, I was studying illustration. So my dream was like I thought I was going to be doing, you know, like the music, like an illustration for the new, you know, REM album. I was going to be drawing a cartoon of, you know, like, you know, the reviews page always had like a cool illustration. And then
and you're still doing signage and doing that kind of stuff now, as far as
I wouldn't have guessed that I probably would have, if I knew this was the direction I was going to go in, I probably would have went to a different kind of school. I could have gone to like a more technical school, you know, to learn the craft, but and I've taken the long way around to kind of
most of us do.
Yeah. But a lot of my artwork would always have these kind of elaborately rendered letters. I liked these weird letter forms. So, and then, you know, further down the line, a few years later, someone would say, "Oh, could you make a sign for my shop?" And then that just started snowballing, and
that's cool.
That's how I am where I am.
So you were like, you know, people see Asbury Park now, and everyone has, you know, opinions, and people are divided. And if you go online, don't go online. Like, actually go into the city and talk to people.
Yeah.
The vitriol that is spit up on Facebook and other places about the town. You know, I found when I moved back around the area in 2007, you know, you find like-minded people. You find the people that are actually doing stuff in the town, that are cultivating it, that are not negative, that are actually like helping it flourish. But you were on the ground floor. You were like in the trenches.
Yeah.
And you stuck around. I mean, there was something about the area. There was cheap rent. Like all these things kind of came together.
Yeah. If you can picture Cookman Avenue, like you'd make the turn onto the block, and there's like maybe a nail salon down there. They're still there, and then there was a pawn shop on the corner, and there was the House of Modern Living, and then these 2 art galleries. They were right there, and then there was not much else that was open. It was like all boarded up except for like a restaurant here, and then there was a tailor down at the end, but there was a lot of mostly closed down spots, boarded up buildings.
People got to understand too that this is the natural process in all phases of life, be it biological or urban development. Like things are desolate, there's nothing there. Oh, there's space. I'm gonna move in here. It's cheap. And then everyone else sees what you're doing, and then it becomes cool, and then the money comes in, and then it gets all built up. And that's just the way it goes. I wish my parents weren't such nervous people. My dad, when he was a kid, used to go to Asbury Park, and then the riots hit, and it was like just wiped out. And so that's what I grew up with. Like, don't go to Asbury Park. You'll get killed. You'll get murdered down there. Real talk, people do get shot still at Asbury Park,
right?
But not as many, and not as often. So that's good.
It was really, it was pretty special. We'd have all kinds of parties and events and openings at the gallery, and hundreds of people would come, and they'd come from all around, and the Tri-City had just kind of started up, I think, maybe while we were there. So you could get the word out pretty good that an event was coming, and that's also kind of where I first probably DJ'd. Was like a friend had brought turntables to a party over at Asbury Art, and so I brought a box of records over, and that's probably where I first got the bug to actually use 2 turntables with a mixer and like playing around with. This song juxtaposed against this song and this mood, and
I think that's things that people don't realize is that there's a lot of thought put into beforehand and during, like what's going to work with what. And when you're working with that limited set of paints and paintbrushes, as far as here's my crate, here's what I have to play. I'm gonna, I thought about it beforehand, but I threw in these, couple of oddball ones just to make
cards.
Just to make sure everything is working. You know. So I mean, there's definitely this art to it, and that's something too that I noticed that people have to, I think, or you don't have to do anything, but as far as respect for the area is that people like yourself, people like Mike Merrill, people like Adam Worth, they're all you guys have been playing in this area for a while, and it's not like the big money with their giant cigar came in and was like, yeah, sure, you get out of here, kid. Like you're still playing around here. There's still that respect and that avenue and opportunity to play. So I mean, I don't know. I still like it around. I'm still here.
No. I love it. Sure, it's gonna change. There's nothing we can do about it.
You just kind of adapt, and you could sit online and get all frumpy and sad and reminisce, or you can think about those times as great and what brought us to where we are today, and still enjoy what's going on. Your band, the Ribeye Brothers, still going. How long have you guys been playing
Ribeye
together?
Brothers put out their first record in, I want to say, 98-ish, 98 or 99. And I started playing with them a little after maybe 2003 or 4, somewhere around there. And that's a long time ago already. That's quite a tenure. But I took a little break in there for a couple years, and but now I've been back in for 6 or 7 years. I don't know. We've been going for a long time. There's 5 records, I want to say. And,
How'd you get started with them?
Well, Tim, the singer, works at Jack's Music in Red
Right
Bank,
on,
which
Jack's.
is where I would take the bus to as a
Yeah,
kid
me
to
too.
go buy a record, to go, So that was the spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I probably eventually started talking to him about music, or he was always great with you. You'd pick out, I really liked this band, and he would say, "Oh, you might like this,"
Yeah.
and he'd point you in
That's
the
so
direction.
cool.
Yeah, he's great.
That's another part of it too, is going to the record stores and like finding stuff is a whole nother thing that's kind of, not as emphasized anymore.
No,
So you met him through Jack's?
yeah, and they would play at the Brighton Bar, and that was like a regular spot to go check out. And I really liked Monster Magnet, and they were an offshoot of that, because John, who is the guitar player songwriter in the band, was the drummer in the Ribeye Brothers. So it was kind of like a side project at first. So that's how I got into them. I just really liked the music right away. It was like a weird combination of sort of twangy, kind of southernish, kind of like country kind of rock, mixed with like weird psychedelic music. It was an interesting combination.
So when was the Van Pelt was before?
Yeah, so that was Van Pelt was 93 till late 97, and then actually right after that I started playing with a band called the Butterflies of Love, which was a group from Connecticut. And they had just sent a record over to John Peel, the famous DJ in England, from the BBC.
Yeah.
And he loved the record.
That's so cool.
Played it, gave out the address to the band, and the band, someone from England wrote them and said, "Hey, we want to put out the record over here."
What?
And it was a small little independent label called Fortuna Pop. And so he put the record out, and it did great. It was like getting reviewed in the NME and the Melody Maker and all this stuff. It was like single of the week in NME.
Wow, that's so cool.
And before we knew it, we were going over there like a couple times a year. We'd go tour for like 2 weeks at a time, and
wow,
it was amazing. Yeah, it was that was eye-opening. England has this pretty in-depth, independent pop or independent rock music scene over there.
It's a little different.
It's a little
over there.
different than here. It's such a small country, and they have an outlet. They have these radio stations that are like, that will play music like this.
Yeah.
Like a band like the Jam or the Smiths can be big over there. That's never happening here in the United States.
Do you still have like your vinyl, like what you're on? Do you have like a collection of like your?
Yeah, they're all kind of sprinkled in the shelves. I try and save at least at least one copy of anything I've ever played on.
I've always wanted to have something. I guess it's maybe easier, a little more tangible today to just press some records, but like just having that tangible piece.
It's a great it's a good keepsake. Yeah,
it's a good it's a milestone, a marker to be like here man, somebody keeps calling me. It's a good like just a I have albums that I've made. I've made CDs or whatever, and I've done artwork on other people's albums, and it's just anything I've printed or stuff. I've lost a lot of it, didn't hold on to it, but there's some pieces I kept,
right?
And it's just nice to have that, to be like I created this, I had a part in this, I did this, so that's awesome. I mean, it's
pretty satisfying. Yeah.
Was there a point where you're playing out with these bands and it went from like obviously going over to England and stuff, like you're playing locally in the U.S., you're going on tours and stuff, and then is there a certain point where you were playing and it was just like you're like, wow, this is
there's hundreds of people here.
Yeah.
Definitely there was a jump. I mean, the Van Pelt band, we toured quite a bit in the United States. We did a couple month European tour, and it was starting to get pretty big at the end. There would be, we'd play Brownies in New York, and it'd be like 200 people or whatever, which that's pretty good. That's
Yeah.
a pretty good show.
Yeah, definitely.
But that band kind of broke up maybe a little bit before its time. We did 2 records and a couple singles, but then broke up, and the Butterflies one more took off over there in England. We would play in they were from New Haven. We would play up there and have good shows, but didn't play a whole lot around the United States. But over there, it was great. We get a couple hundred people at shows, and
So would the record company just fly you guys out, and then kind of it was all organized by a tour manager?
No, I mean, this is probably even smaller than that. Yeah, he was the record label head was covering everything. He would book our flights, he would book the tour, he would arrange everything. It was a pretty small operation.
As far as the the Ribeye Brothers stuff now, is it put out by you guys personally? Is there like a local record label?
It's called Main Man Records. Who's
Shout out to Main Man Records.
Yeah, and that's Keith Roth. He does a show on the Rat, and I think it's also on Sirius. Also, it's called the Electric Ballroom. And he's got a record label in print. He's been putting out the Ribeye Brothers stuff.
Do you guys have any shows coming up?
We do, actually. We're playing this Saturday. I don't know how well, if you're on Facebook Live.
It's going now.
Okay. All right. Well, this Saturday at the Capitol Line in the basement.
Oh, yeah. I love the basement.
Yeah. This will be my first time playing in a band down there. But, yeah, I like the space.
Sweaty, but it's cool.
Yeah.
It's got that whole basement vibe that I love.
Right. I do love a basement. Yeah. Yeah, the show starts at around 8-ish, I would say. There's 4 groups, and they're all great, I think.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good you're playing with great bands.
Yeah. We played with 2 of them last night up in New York, up at Hank's Saloon in Brooklyn, and it was a really fun show. It was great. So I think it's going to be a good time on Saturday night.
Is there a different vibe between, say, playing up at a show like that in New York versus in Asbury?
Yeah. Well, it's always fun to play in front of a different crowd, in front of new faces, people maybe who haven't seen you before, who have no idea what you're about,
Yeah.
Whereas, down here we have a lot of friends who come out to see us, and, then there are people who maybe like the band and we don't know them and they come out, but a lot of times you look out in the crowd and you're like, I can name almost all these people by name, but there's something special about, it's like you don't know anyone there and they're having a good time, and they're,
What about Foggy Notion? Do you have any DJ gigs
coming up?
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, the Catsbury.
Oh man.
The Catsbury Park is the next
stoked.
big.
That's
big banger. Yeah.
I'm so happy too that I get to. You're gonna have your setup there, and I'm like my setup is a lot different than yours. But I'm fortunate enough to have, you said you're going to have your stuff set up, and I'll be able to just bring records.
Yeah, cool.
Which, I love playing records, and it's just, honestly, it more than anybody, it's a lot of work, it's really heavy, and there's a lot of stuff you got to bring out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I could just show up with records. I remember playing with you one 4th of July. You asked me, I think you had a gig with the Ribeye Brothers or somebody.
Yeah, I had to run out for a minute.
Yeah,
right?
So I had to play for like 45 minutes. It was like 4th of July, whenever.
Yeah.
And I'm such a dumbass. Like, it was like later in the night, and I had a crate. I had 2, because I'm nuts. And I had to park my car and then walk over there. And, my upper body strength ain't what it used to be. And I get there, I'm just like drenched.
I got a hand truck.
Yeah, exactly. You have this whole like rolled out, it like transforms, it's all set up. But, it's so much fun because I love good 12-inch singles, because they always have the random remixes.
Yeah.
8 for whatever reason. I go on like Discogs and I'll find like random 12-inch remix singles of, just whatever popular songs, and you flip it over and it has like the dub remix.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of shout out to Shep Pettibone over at Paradise. Like, he was the king of the remix in the 90s.
Totally.
And I kind of searched that stuff out too, because it has a certain, I don't know if it's the 909 drums or whatever. It has this weird 90s sound to it that, I used to not like, but now I kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
But I respect to you, Neil, and I love what you do. I love what you're about. Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And I'm looking forward to the cat convention.
Yeah, we're
Catsbury
gonna have
Park.
a good time.
Oh, everyone come out and check out all the celebrities and come say hi to either myself or Neil. As always, thank you, Ming, for putting this all together and being here. A Shared Universe podcast studio. It's if anyone's out there thinking about doing it, get in touch with Ming, because he's gonna hook it up and set it up right for you and make sure everything's working. And it's just getting better and better and better. And again, thank you, Foggy Notion, aka Neil, for coming in and doing this. This was a lot of fun,
Thank
and
you.
it was great talking to you.
Yeah, it's always great chatting with you.
All right, awesome. Everyone have a wonderful day.